Call the meeting to order. Meeting of the Carver Board of Selectmen, Tuesday, March.
We're just trying to hurry you on.
The two bookends, we're excited to be here.
Meeting of the Carver Board of Selectmen, Tuesday, March 8th, 2016. This meeting's being cablecast by Area 58 Community Access Media, Channel 15. We have openings on several committees. Please refer to the Board of Selectmen page on our website for a listing and application. Donations to the food pantry can be made at the Council on Aging or the Public Library. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And our community prayer from Ms. Maroney.
Almighty God, humbly we pray your blessing as we concern our life with the opportunity to serve our community. Enhance us with your spirit of dignity and selflessness. May we become instruments of support and understanding as we seek to bring an environment of trust and purpose among all who provide the many services that make us all that we can become. Help us achieve the goals of our commitment in this office that is now our responsibility. And especially, we lift our prayers for all the citizens of our community that we have been allowed to serve, that they may discover the fullness and joy of life that we all seek. And keep those serving in our armed forces and our first responders in our hearts and in our thoughts. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Now we'll move on to our public comment period. This is a period we reserve to the start of our meetings. We like to allow about 10 minutes to have citizens that would like to address the board. Take a few minutes and do so. We do ask each citizen to try to stay to 3 or 4 minutes so that several people can speak if they'd like to. Were there any citizens that wanted to address the board this evening? Yes, sir. Please step forward.
Sit here or?
Absolutely. And give us your name and address.
No problem. It's Paul
Use the
Kelly,
microphone.
36 Leonard. You're checking the mics on?
And make sure your mic is on.
Actually, if I could pass any of those around. Thank you for your time and hearing us on a pivotal concern this evening as the town guardians. I'll try to make this brief since I was not allowed to necessarily put this on the agenda. The issue as it pertains to this board, from what we, our experts and our legal counsel can see, this new Draper 40B 39 home development application itself, accepted by the town planner and yourself, is lacking significant, if not essential, details, especially in regards to the septic system that would be needed for such a concentrated development of 1/4 acre or less lots directly over our shared aquifer. The main reason for us appearing before you tonight is to review the application, which has already been seemingly accepted by yourself through the town planner. We're asking you to take a closer look, and we believe that if you do, then you'll see what we mean. As you know, we sit on the state's second largest aquifer. It's the literal lifeblood of our town, residents, and cranberry industry. The acceptance of this inadequate application starts an unrelenting clock of decisions and triggers a forced deadline by the town, by the state. Accepting this application as is forces the town powers and its residents to have to play catch up and fill in the gaps that the developer should have unveiled in the application to start. We just, in our eyes, simply don't have enough details. For those who question our stamina, as citizens, we've already contracted legal counsel for however long it takes to fight the opposition to the size and the scope of this project for our health and for the sake of the legal precedents that it sets for the town and our health. I've been told or implied since this first started that nothing can be done. If the state wants it, then the state will force this through. I didn't buy this when we stopped landfills from taking over our commercial property, and I don't believe it now. Recent proof is an example that I'm sure many of you might not be aware of, There's a recent victory by Stowe, Massachusetts, with the state Supreme Court, that their zoning board of appeals could reject a similar process or plan to this directly because of the concentrated septic system that's so close to wells and cranberry bogs. Finally, I, like you, have better things to do with my life than to try to ensure projects like this don't derail what we've done and built so much in this town. But our health matters, our family's health matters, and our residents. Please reevaluate this application's validity, and please be actively informed in this pivotal issue in our town's safety and health. We will be. So I tried to make sure I wrote it down to make sure I could keep within you.
No, thank you. We appreciate that. Did anybody have any quick questions before we ask for anyone else?
Mr. Kelly, do you want to enter that into the record? I can email it over to you if you want. I have scratches all over it.
Can we ask questions? I mean, should this be put on the agenda for another night so we can?
Well,
Like have
again,
a
the
good
problem is,
discussion?
yeah, actually, questions are probably on in order. Since it's a 40B and it's been passed under the zoning board, we
Yeah.
need to be very careful in how we proceed.
That's true,
Because if we prejudice the meeting from either side,
Yeah.
either the developer or the plaintiffs can
Yeah.
argue that. We appreciate that, and we
Play some
understand that it's not necessarily, but it's more of that if we can ask that you as the guardians or the overlooker, that you keep some extra eyes on this one way or another, because it's going a little faster and there's a lot of holes and a lot of missing information that at
certainly
least in
each of
our
us
eyes.
individually can ask additional questions.
I was just gonna make the comment that I read the letter from your attorney yesterday.
Okay.
And it's a pretty extensive letter, but I found it interesting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Was there anyone else that would like to address the board this evening? There being none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is Douglas and Kathleen Ladd and ongoing property issues. They represented?
And Charlie's Auto.
Pardon me?
And Charlie's Auto.
And Charlie's Auto.
Thank you.
All right, well, I guess the question has come up about a lot of concern about the condition of the property. And I think it was Charlie's Auto some questions were raised. And I think it was pointed out that you lease the property but don't actually operate from there.
Well, I haven't had any vehicles there.
Right.
In at least 10
He
years.
also hasn't had any financial doings since '99.
I think part of the question was that there has been, I believe, an order in place from the Board of Health, is it? Conservation?
An enforcement order from the Conservation Commission.
To clean up the property, and nothing
Okay.
apparently has been done?
Yeah, and it can't be, what's the word, appealed. You can't appeal an enforcement order. So that needs to be complied with. the
Okay,
Conservation Commission.
to comply with what?
To comply with conservation and local and state
Which recommendation
regulations.
was to remove the vehicles away from the border of the water?
No, well,
My point is that we've been given documentation that there's an enforcement order against you issued by the Conservation Commission, and you can't appeal that. You need to apply to them. You need to apply for a permit to them. That's what's being requested of you, is my understanding.
Okay, of what nature is the permit that I am to apply for?
You need to talk to them about that.
Okay,
You were in receipt of an order from the Conservation
no,
Commission?
that's what I'm getting at.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
You're Douglas Ladd.
yes,
Okay.
LAD, L-A-D-D.
Yep. Okay, you didn't state your name, so I'm still. And you are
Charles Quintel.
Charles. What's your last name?
Quintel.
Quintel.
Q-U-I-N-T-A-L.
Okay.
Mr. Ladd, may I, through you,
Yeah,
Mr. Chair?
absolutely, yep.
On August 13th of 2015, your property was inspected along with town council.
Right,
And so the property at that time had 14 unregistered vehicles, 2 unregistered boats, 4 unregistered utility trailers, and unregistered motorcycles besides the building. So I think it's more than just obtaining these permits.
okay.
I just drove by there yesterday and it looked like there was a auto sale going on. The garage was open, there were things going on, and I'm gonna be quite frank, cause I say it the way it is. You have to admit it's a disaster looking at that
Okay.
for the town of Carver. And
The town of Carver set this all up. They're
how
the
did we
people
set
who-
it up?
Because they refused to grandfather me when the zoning was changed from commercial and went over to village zoning, but they have refused, the town of Carver, is to alter my tax rate. I still pay a commercial tax rate. But yet I am not allowed, and have not been allowed, to perform any kind of commercial application on this property at all.
Well, if I may, Mr. Chair, I don't know that that really excuses the violations. Whether or not you have, zoning issues with issues with the assessor's office. And just to follow up on what Helen said, the enforcement order is dated August 20th, 2015, and it's addressed to Douglas and Kathleen Ladd.
Right. Now this is, I'm supposed to have received this notification?
That's our
Well,
understanding.
you seem to be aware of it because you knew.
We had a verbal meeting among 5 of your members of the town's, the health, the board of health, the building inspector, et cetera. And pretty much they walked through the place and the remarks were made about the cars. As far as 14 automobiles on that yard that are not registered, I don't know where that came from, but that's not the case.
Well, what are all the,
They're counting vehicles on the inside of the property, that's not your call.
so what is going on there then? There's so many vehicles out
Well,
there.
you drove by yesterday.
I did.
There
I
are,
drive by every day to be
how many
honest.
cars?
Probably about 9.
Most of the mess that was
About
there
9.
was us moving cars out. We took 5 of them away, we put 2 away inside, and there's still 2 left that have to be dealt with. I haven't got to that yet.
So,
Slowly but surely, we're getting there.
So I think, although I believe Helen is correct about this, because that number was on a letter to you from the Board of Health.
Yeah,
for Sep 14.
which I don't
I think
understand.
we're not
the
here
body
to
count.
quibble about, how many vehicles there are.
They had to be counting what was in the building.
What's being asked of you by the Conservation Commission is that you file for a permit from them, and what's being asked from you, from the Board of Health, is that the property needs to be cleaned.
That's
that's pretty
justifiable.
straightforward.
I understand that, yes, yes.
Part of the issue was also the vehicles within the 100-foot buffer.
Within the 200-foot buffer of the,
Of the
Hutch-
water, yes, yeah. That's what we dealt with yesterday, was getting a vehicle.
Do you
all the
believe as of
vehicles like
today, you are not in violation of the 200-foot buffer?
As of right, it's a second, all the vehicles that were up against them. And here we go again, this is something that has been going on since 1927. All of a sudden now, I'm in violation of something that has been done forever.
well, here's the problem. In one sense, Mr. Ladd is correct, because the Riverfront Act did not come in until the 90s. However, what's being asked of you, in my understanding, is that you pull these things as far away as you can. Your whole property's in the riverfront area.
Yeah.
But they don't have to be hanging off the riverbank.
Right, exactly, yes, yeah. That's understood.
But is it not true too that you have a license to sell 2 used cars?
I don't, he does.
I do.
Okay, so.
And he's not supposed to.
Okay, so what are they all on your property if there's no business going on there? I
I'm
mean,
not
like
sure I
yesterday I
understand your
saw,
question.
like, I believe I
Who
saw.
owns the vehicles that are
Who
there?
owns the
I do, in most cases I do. There are 3 that are not mine, the rest of them are
Now,
mine.
what is the purpose of the owning the vehicles?
Either general repair, the motorcycles that you referred to are gonna be reconstructed by me. They are mine. There's a dump truck there, up on the far end of the property. That's actually registered. There is a U-Haul body truck, a van, if you will, a moving van. That is there to remove stuff, which we've been loading it for the last 2 months or so. I don't know where else you wanna go here.
You said there were 3 that don't belong to you. Who do those belong to?
There's an old Pontiac GTO that belongs to someone paying me rent to store it out in the back of the property. And there's also a can't remember what year it is. It's a '93 Caravan, Dodge Caravan van that is also belonging to somebody else, and they are paying me to store it.
The third one?
I'm sorry.
The third vehicle? Said there's three.
The third vehicle is a '91 Voyager. That's there to be basically junked, and it will be. Again, in
But not owned
process.
by you?
I'm sorry.
Not owned by you?
Not owned by me, no. No.
Do you not need a license to go ahead and store other people's property on your property? What I'm getting at, yeah, this is, as far as I know, has been an ongoing issue with the cleanliness. The deputy fire chief found many violations on your property. As a former firefighter, I wouldn't want to try to put out a fire on that property.
Okay.
Because it's extremely hazardous for any firefighting activities with all the spare cars and everything else there. And I'd like to know what license you're operating under to have this many vehicles.
First off, I'm not operating under any license because the town refused to grandfather me. So for 16 years, I haven't had any way of operating. I'm on that property because I own it and because I do repair of my own vehicles. And those vehicles are mostly stored inside.
You have no commercial activity going on yourself
this moment,
on that
no.
property?
Not at this moment.
If
Do
you're
we
doing
not
any,
have-
any repair work is on your own vehicles?
That's right.
But isn't there a bylaw or
How many vehicles you
how many
can have
vehicles you can have on your
on
property?
my property?
That's part of zoning.
There's a limit.
Yep.
And
Unregistered.
I'm not sure on that.
Unregistered vehicles.
Right, yes.
Although if we zone commercial, I don't know if that changes what the limits are.
Well, we should look it up.
But again, the unregistered vehicles that you're allowed to have on that property are what is open to the public view.
You mean
Stored and what is
outside
undercover
versus
is
inside,
what's undercover is not subject to that law.
which is probably true.
Well, undercover, that's the magic word.
But the problem is vehicles all left around would
The stuff that
affect
is outside, yes.
the neighbors and
So if we drove by in the
values and
morning,
so
what are
on.
we gonna see?
I'm saying it again,
If we drove by tomorrow morning, what are we gonna see?
there's 4 left that you can see. There are 4 vehicles on the, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry, there are 5 vehicles on the property that you can see. 2 of those 5 vehicles are going to leave within the next, I'm gonna say the next 4 days. The others are staying with me.
Outside?
Well, I'm gonna put them in the backyard, yes, yes.
And I'm not precisely sure what the zoning rules are, if it's a commercial property, if it's any different than what private citizens. But
Michael, do you have any, oh, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
Do you have any insight, because we need to address this for the fairness to you, who you're trying to run a business, but quite frankly, we have to look at this in the interest of all the Carver residents, and like I said earlier, Mr. Ladd, you have to admit, this is unfair to the neighbors around, because I drive by there maybe once every 2 days, and more than not, I don't think you would want your home looking out at that.
Not at
I
all,
think you would agree with me.
not at all.
Yeah, I mean, so,
So the town needs to understand that they took away the only way I had of making a living from this property and earning any kind of money to keep it maintained and looking decent. By taking that right away from me, you hurt every chance I had of keeping it up and to keep it looking decent. So it became in disrepair.
so are you saying because you're still paying the commercial tax rate is the reason why it's become in
This
deplorable
property
condition?
was commercial property that got changed to a
Right.
village.
To a village.
But it was never grandfathered in to let me continue to operate out of there. We had an auto body repair, we had an automotive repair, and we had a towing service. All working out of that property, besides 2 used car licenses, one of which were taken away from me for whatever violations the town chose to put on paper.
Do you still have any boats on the property?
Say it again?
Any boats still
There
there?
are 2 boats,
Yeah.
yes. Part of the complaint against the riverbank were the 2 boats that are there, they are out back.
They've
They've been moved.
out back.
Okay, so there are no licenses for anything on the property, and it sounds like what the town's department heads are asking us to require you to do is get rid of the vehicles and clean it up. And this is what the Carver Fire Department inspections reports. And this goes back to last May. The general site conditions and that of the structures on the property are deplorable. There are many unregistered vehicles strewn about on the property along with boats, trash, and debris. I did not enter the property and therefore can only comment on the conditions that are viewable from Wenham Road. Although technically there are no visible fire code violations, the site conditions would be prohibitive of conducting offensive fire suppression operations on that property should there be a fire. The hazards that are present would force us to restrict our operation to a defensible operation only, lessening the potential for firefighter injuries. Additionally, defensive operations are commonly longer in duration and may result in a larger environmental impact due to the increased duration of airborne combustion contaminants. Additionally, airborne particulate particles would pose a fire risk and health hazard to the residents in and around the area. Without access to the buildings, any comments would be pure speculation. With that said, a fair assumption would be that the deplorable site conditions on the exterior may represent an accurate depiction of the conditions on the interior. So, I mean, the Board of Health, the Conservation Commission, the Fire Department, they're asking you to clean it up.
Understood. I do not, truthfully, do not understand the complaint from the fire chief. He's got access to the property, he's got access to the building. The vehicles in the yard, I understand that, that's a given.
I'm just reading what he said, sir.
If I might suggest, you've taken some action on the property now. You're going to continue.
Yes.
You're going to get some more vehicles out of there. To
Yes.
your knowledge, you are no longer violating the buffer zone.
Up against the Water Rights Act, yes, yeah.
What I think we should do is perhaps to ask someone from the fire department, conservation, and the Board of Health to go back and do another inspection.
Yeah.
Make a determination as to whether the property is or is not now in compliance. Get back to you with a detailed explanation as to what, if anything, additional needs to be done.
Yes.
And then we'll give you 30 days from that time to comply, or else we'll have to take some action.
Meet again, say hi.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I think we need to come up with a stronger resolution tonight because, quite frankly, this has been going on. And again, I don't mean to be harsh, I'm thinking of everybody. And back in 2015, you were given a detailed list. So what can we do, besides us just dictating to you, to make this a cordial relationship so we can move forward? Because what's gonna happen is 30 days is gonna come by and a few of the autos are gonna disappear, and then they're gonna come back and say, it's looking good, but just clean it up. Then you're gonna say, yes, I'll clean it up, and then another 30 days is gonna come. We know that's gonna happen.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is there something that we can do to make this relationship work?
Establish some way for me to earn some money off of this property. Whatever rules you want to come up with, or any kind of a protocol that you need to give me, I need a way to earn money. I need a way to earn a finance to maintain this property. And I also need the town, well, I shouldn't say that. I almost said the town of Carver patrons. That's not necessarily true. I have had, over the last 11 years, 294 tires dropped off at my shop. One of those drops included 82 tires that the Board of Health made sure that 24 hours after they got dropped off, I was notified.
Were those unsolicited?
The point is that I'm subject to transients. This has been a problem for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. And they throw, I've got glass, I've changed 15 pieces of glass over the last 3 months. I've got 5 more that are busted now because they drive by and they throw whatever they throw at the property. It's always been a target, but this is more predominant lately than it's ever been before, ever.
Who's they?
I can't answer that question because I don't see it happening.
Random people driving by.
Just random.
The last one was a full bottle of Budweiser beer. I can't see him wasting the cost of the Budweiser beer to throw it through a piece of glass. I don't get that.
Maybe this is their way of communicating to you because
Whatever.
they don't know who you are. So maybe if we
Whatever.
can come up with some sort of an agreement Maybe they're showing their anger.
And
Who
again, if
knows?
the town can put together a package for me to work with, I don't have an issue cleaning this up. Money and time is a problem for me. Money especially is a big problem for me because I've lost the ability to earn. And again, remember, I bought this property as commercial. When I bought it and paid for it, and it was functional. It was a commercial piece of property that has gone away. And I was not included in any kind of a changeover, and it kind of bothers me. It does bother me, there's no,
I still think, Helen, though, that we need to establish a new baseline. Mr. Ladd apparently has done a lot of work removing vehicles, so I think it would be worthwhile to find out where he is relative to the original compliance request, and then give him specifically what needs to be done to be in compliance. And then, once he's in compliance, we can discuss what else we can do to perhaps make the property more viable.
Can we limit the days to like 15 because of the fact that these grace periods have been given several times, and last time they did the inspection, you did clear everything out, and then 2 days later it was
It just depends how quickly Conservation,
Yeah.
Board of Health,
Yeah.
and
If I could, Mr. Chairman, just a couple facts just for clarification here. First of all, this property is zone village zone. In the front, the rear of the property is residential agriculture. In the village zone, it is a village zone, is a commercial use. You can do commercial activities within that. So the owner's rights and responsibilities to do something, has some economic value with the property. Second is under section 8.2 of the general bylaws. No person shall permit a junk vehicle or any major part thereof to stand in the open or premises within the town which is not licensed under chapter 140, section 57 for a period of more than 30 days. Obviously, these have been here for years, as exceeds that 30
is that
days.
applying to personal property or commercial property?
No junk vehicles that are not permitted under chapter 140, section 57. The 140, section 57 would be an actual license to allow them to be there. So he doesn't have the license, so they can't be there. The second is that within that section of the bylaws, enforcement of this bylaws can be done by the Board of Selectmen or their appointed representatives. What I would suggest the Board of Selectmen do is designate your building commissioner / zoning enforcement officer to deal with enforcement of this post haste, because this has been going on for a while. We do know there was a site visit that occurred in August of last year, and there was also an enforcement order that was submitted by the Conservation Commission. So, again, what I would do is follow the bylaws. My recommendation is to follow the bylaws, appoint the zoning enforcement officer to deal with enforcement of this. There's clearly a breach with the bylaws of the town, and have that remedied within 15 days.
I didn't have a question on what you just said. I was just wondering that in the village district, it allows commercial.
It allows some limited commercial.
So why couldn't you have applied for a commercial permit?
sent me downstairs to the Board of Appeals and I got laughed at. Put the money out in the ad, did the whole routine, went through all the numbers, jumped through all the hoops, went before the board, and the board basically told me they had no idea why I was there.
Well,
And
on
there
May
was
13th,
nothing they could do to the zoning, to make a zoning change.
Well, were you asking for them to permit your existing business or something different? Because I think Mr. Ward is suggesting there are other commercial opportunities there.
That's
maybe
correct.
maybe not what you have there currently.
Well,
That
the
may be why
problem
they
be-
turned you
in
down.
1997, the zoning change took place in May 13th, 2004. You filed a case with the ZBA, and at that point, they determined that your proposed use for a Class 2 license had lapsed for more than 2 years, so you had lost your privilege, your grandfather
I
right to
actually
that
have
property.
I have a letter that's 5 months old from the original inception telling me my rights had lapsed.
I'm just going by what
Yes,
was
I understand.
done in a court of law based upon that. So again, I would suggest that the Board of Selectmen designate your zoning enforcement building commissioner as the enforcement officer for this, and request that this be resolved within 14 days.
And then he would be responsible for consulting with fire, conservation, and
Legal.
Board of Health to find,
Legal.
to make sure that they're met.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just one last quick question to Michael. May I?
Yeah, you don't have to ask me.
Thank you. Mr. Mr. Silver, right? Sorry. Now, he's doing commercial business out of that property. Is
He
that-
uses it just as an address, I believe. He does not actually
I don't do
function
any-
there.
I haven't had a vehicle there.
You don't even physically go there, do you?
I don't go there at all.
No. It's simply
You
to
lease
allow him to
part of
conduct
the
his
I
property?
business.
have a license there since 1993,
Uh-huh.
continuously.
So he's a
until-
tenant at your property?
He had, I'm sorry,
He's a tenant at your property?
oh, hasn't been since
I haven't
97,
been there since
99,
the,
99.
since the board of, before, when this happened.
There was a deal.
Then I
that
have
was-
to ask the question, what is your legal authority or your legal right to designate that property as your business address when you don't have a lease or an agreement with the property
Because
owner?
I had a rental agreement before the last meeting, we worked out a rental agreement to continue on with the license. But since then, I was asked, why don't I get a license in Westport, which I did. I have a license, and I'm ready to turn in my Carver license, my temporary 90-day. The only thing I'm asking is I have everything in order, with the exception of my dealer plate is still registered in Carver. I would like the board, if it would give me an extension, just so I can get that transferred to my Westport, because without it, I can't sell vehicles, because it has to coincide with my license number and the dealer plate number.
Understood, how long do you
Yeah.
reasonably need to get that transfer of your dealer plate?
I just got the license for Westport here, if you want it for your records.
Okay.
Thank you.
And,
So you'll be you will not
I-
be using that address
Well,
anymore?
I
Once you get
I
a
won't
deal-
be using the address, as soon as I get my dealer plate transferred to this address,
Yeah,
and I have to go to the registry to do it.
So within a month.
yeah,
It takes longer than that, because the state police have to come down and inspect it before they
Is
approve.
that a 90-day process?
I think it's at least a 3-month process to get it, and I'd be happy
That's
that.
reasonable.
Yeah.
So we had a 90-day agreement. Now we're talking maybe an extension of 90 days to that.
Well,
'Cause he's in a
it's only
process.
because I'm still selling cars under my Carver.
We
licensing.
understand, yeah.
And I can't do it in Westport unless I have a dealer.
But
plate.
all we're trying to figure out is a 90-day extension now gonna work?
Yes, I believe it would. If
And
I-
your license is now operating out of Westport. It's just the
Yes.
dealer plate that
right.
Well,
is
He
Carver.
needs
no,
both.
I can't sell out of Westport because the
Until
law
you have the dealer
requires
plate?
me to have a
Yeah.
dealer plate number, which it says it right here.
Okay.
And it has to coincide with the address. which
So you'd
I-
like us to let your Carver license stand until you get this
Yes,
transfer?
I've got, the hardest part is done. I've paid
The
the bond
license,
for
yeah.
Westport, and I've got the Westport license.
Yeah,
And I'm fine, and I can sell cars there because I have an existing license
Yeah.
while the dealer plate is being transferred.
All right, well, we
That's
got two
understandable.
separate issues here, so let's deal with Mr. Ladd first.
Yeah.
The town administrator's recommendation is that we empower the zoning enforcement officer, which happens to be our building commissioner, to go out to the meet Mr. Ladd, go out to the property, inspect it, consult with the Board of Health, Conservation, and the fire department, make sure that it's in compliance. Once it's in compliance, Mr. Ladd, once it's reported to us that you're in compliance, at that point in time, we can, or you can work with the planning board or somebody to see if there's something that can help make you make that property more economically viable for you. But the thing that we need right away is compliance with the outstanding recommendations.
Okay,
So
Very
that
good.
the building commissioner will be in touch with you, and then after you meet with the building commissioner and he gives you a specific list of what needs to be, what's left that needs to be
which
done.
is what I want.
You'll have 14 days to comply with that,
From the receipt of that.
from the receipt of that,
I
yes.
make that motion.
second.
Now, I'm sorry,
Sorry.
can we set up some sort of a date for these folks to show up within the week?
Well, we'll ask the town administrator to get hold of the building commissioner tomorrow and make immediate contact to get it set up.
Building commissioner will probably have to arrange that, right?
This is a copy.
So the building commissioner will be in contact with you to make the arrangements.
That'd be
to come
cool,
out.
all right,
Yes.
okay,
Within a week.
all right.
All right, motion made and seconded, further discussion? There being none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. And now, on a secondary basis, to extend Mr. Quintel's license for an additional 90 days to allow for the transfer of his plate.
See you in a couple of weeks.
I'll make that
Do
motion.
a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Please, as soon as it's done, please let us know.
Oh, if it's done earlier, I will
Good luck,
let you know.
thank you.
All right, good. Thank you very much. Ms. Ladd, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank
Mr.
you.
Ladd, this was the, that's what I had, a copy of the conservation.
Now, is it, so this is the one that was sent to me?
That's just my copy, what I have, I believe that was what was sent to you.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Okay, we move on to the review and make recommendations on the proposed FY17 as presented. Budget, I'm assuming we're referring to. By the way, the Finance Committee was supposed to meet with us tonight, but they ran into some posting issues, so they cannot join us. They will have their own separate meeting this Thursday.
Gotcha.
Mr. Chairman, did you want to give a overview of last night's meeting?
Pardon me? Overview of last night's meeting?
Yes.
Do I have last
Planned on
night's
that
agenda?
with the school?
Oh! A little slow on the pickup. For those of you that may not have heard the news last night, as everyone's aware, when we went to the ballot to build a new school, to vote on building a new school, we advertised that the average cost in taxes for the debt exclusion to the average homeowner would be $359. And that is what people went to the polls, and that's what they knew of when they voted, is that it would cost them an additional $359 for the average home. I think it was $138 per, excuse me, $100,000 of appraised value. Since that time, the Board of Selectmen, Town Administrator, our Finance Department have been active seeking ways to try to relieve that burden and take it down below that $359 level. One of the things the Board of Selectmen did was to dedicate $100,000 that'll be coming in revenue over the next 25 years on an annual basis from some solar projects, dedicate that $100,000 annually to go towards the payments on the new school. That knocked about 6% off of of what we anticipated. Then we went out and got a rate on a bond. And we got the news yesterday that we did so well on that bond that as opposed to the average homeowner paying an additional $359, and what's tied into this when we got this new bond rate is everything we've done over the last several years, all the financial policies we've put in force, getting involved with OPEB, getting involved with building out the capital stabilization fund, building out our standard stabilization fund, tightening our belt. All that was taken into account by the bidders on the bonds. Long story short, that $359 to the average taxpayer is now going to be $259. We've knocked $100 off of what the anticipated additional tax would be on that debt exclusion. And I think it really speaks well of a lot of work that the town administrator did along with his finance department and the efforts by the Board of Selectmen. And really, it's the entire town came together, the entire town government came together to work on this. So that also means instead of $138 per 100,000 of assessed value, it's $100 per 100,000 of assessed value now. So it's fairly easy to do the math there based on the appraised value of your home as to what your burden would be. So it's just absolutely great news, and we're really, really pleased to be able to bring that to everyone's attention. Mr. Ward?
May I comment, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
I'm the chairman, folks, of the school building committee, and that is something that we've been praying for since the town voted for the school. As most, hopefully everybody knows, that the school was voted by a large majority and support, and with the idea that it was going to be $359 for the average size home. and we were praying that things would work out. The bond issues would be, the interest rates would be low because of what we were working for in our financial programs, and it happened. And this is phenomenal news. We have not changed the building at all. It meets our education plan by the school committee and the superintendent's office. The only thing that's changed is the financing and the efforts that we've had by town administrator on in lieu of taxes on any solar properties that has been channeled to help on that cost. So that is great news. $259 for the average home, and this is a $50 million school that we are going to get. Thank you.
So, that's great news.
Just to add that your goal was 10% reduction, that's 28% based upon what the number was. And I think we also need to thank town meeting who passed the financial policies, and for your leadership as the board, making sure that we follow those year after year, because as you heard from our financial advisor, that's what the rating agencies are looking for. It makes us more competitive with the bonding. And when you can actually see the results of that demonstrating, I think it's, for all the tough decisions you've had to make, I think it makes it rewarding that you've made those tough decisions, because you see an outcome for it.
So, again, great news.
I'll make you come up. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to be referring to tab C and D in your budget book.
We don't have with us.
Tab C is the budget that we went over at our Saturday's budget hearing with the Finance Committee, and went through all the departments that were there. So you heard from each one of those departments at that
Have
time.
there been any changes in what we looked at that time?
There have been no changes in what you've looked at that time. We've had follow-up meetings on the whole finance reorganization. As far as the operational budget, there are no changes. As far as transitional funding to support the assessor's office 6 months into the year, that will be coming out of free cash, not part of the operational budget. But that is a change, not part of the budget, but it is a change based upon input we received through the process.
In terms of the standard operating budget that we reviewed on Saturday, the 27th of February, the numbers are the same numbers that we looked at and endorsed at that time.
That is correct. As well as the organizational charts on tab D, the wage and scale classification that's also in tab D, and the wage and salary pay scale that was also in tab D. Nothing has changed.
Alan?
Mr. Chairman, the school budget that was presented to us had a 7% increase in health benefits. Have we gotten their revised figures showing the 8% increase yet from the school department?
They identified that I think it was a $24,000 increase in their budget. They did present to the Finance Committee. They know they need to make that change within their budget, so their total bottom line budget number will not change from what they presented to you. They're just gonna be sweeping their budget to find the additional $24,000 within their budget.
Okay.
Bottom line, no change.
Okay, good, thank you.
So, going back to Saturday, I think, the board heard presentations from all the different departments, and where there's going to be some additional staff that's going to be added, or some positions that are modified. Again, the highlight, or the item of concern that the Selectmen had, the Finance Committee, was with the assessing function. Once we outsourced that, and how we were going to provide appropriate support for Dee being the new principal assessor in her ability to manage the department. That was the only item that came out of Saturday's meeting, to my knowledge, to my recollection, that you had that was not answered at that question that you wanted follow-up. But other than that, I believe that has been addressed, and there were no other questions that I'm aware of beyond.
That money's coming out of free cash. It's not altering the operating budget that we reviewed before.
Not at all.
Well, let's just take a moment to review what Elaine has for us, in case there are any additional questions. And essentially, since you made one of the first presentations to us several months ago, these numbers have been relatively stable.
The dollar amount's been stable. We didn't get into the different department details, but the organizational charts have been consistent from what I've been talking about since, December. And before then.
But as we go through Public Works and Fire Department and the Town Clerk's Office and so forth, all these numbers are the numbers that we saw Saturday the 27th.
That is correct.
Are we voting tonight, or is this just?
Voting on the budget, approving the budget, yes.
Okay.
Yep. We will be coming back at our meeting on March 23rd and starting to review the warrant articles.
Yeah,
But tonight,
okay.
we needed to vote the budget 30 days prior to town
That's
meeting,
right.
and that's this
That's right.
Thursday.
This is all the time. Hence the reason.
You have to
tonight.
provide your recommendations on the budget, but you actually create the budget, so you have to approve the budget. The finance committee will provide their recommendations on Thursday if they have any issues. I'm not aware of anything from
Right.
the finance committee is to vote that on Thursday. I'm not aware of any issues from the finance committee.
Perfect.
Does this also include the plan to use free cash to supplement the wages of the department heads?
It does not. I'll be bringing that in the articles.
Okay, that'll
So
be.
that's
an
not part of the operational budget. So the operational budget is based upon our known projected income coming in, revenue coming in, and this is a balanced budget based upon that revenue. Now, yes, we are going to be using some free cash for one-time purposes, transition purposes, human resource training.
But they're not continuing expenses that we're committing to in future operating budgets.
Correct.
And this is taking into account the changes that you are also proposing in terms of the organizational structure.
Yes, the entire finance department reorganization is
Alright.
built into tab C and D.
Got it.
So again, not to repeat myself, but when we finished up our review on Saturday the 27th, going department by department by department, these numbers are essentially the same numbers with the exception of what you've had to do to supplement the assessors department, as we discussed last night.
I'll be even clearer than that. They're not essentially the same numbers. The supplement to the assessor's office is gonna all be done in free cash. No changes were made to these numbers since Saturday. Is that correct, Meg?
Okay.
Is that clear? Can you say it any clearer than that?
No, the numbers have not changed since Saturday.
Mr. Chairman,
That's clear.
so we can move this forward, I'd like to move that we go ahead and adopt the 2017 recommended operating budget.
Second.
Further discussion? Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I have to vote no.
Do you want to elaborate?
Sure, I do want to say that I understand the financial motivations and all the hard work that have gone into the budget, but my issue is largely that I think the budget itself is predicated on an organizational structure that I think is detrimental to the organization. And I'm not here to fight, it's just my opinion.
You speaking specifically about the finance department, or?
No, just in general, that it's been more than that over the past couple of years.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Okay. Well, actually, we'll be on the discussion point anyway, so. All right, so moving on. The appointment of Lisa Rowe to Area 58 Community Access Media. Peter Gray, who was the one of our members, has resigned as a member of the board. Lisa Rowe had been the media IT person for Carver Public Schools, and now she's over at, I believe, Old Rochester. And she's just brilliant when it comes to technical information, and she's just been, when she was on the Carver Community Access Television Board for a number of years, had to get off because she went off and got her doctorate, and now she has the time for us again, and so she'd like to come back on and serve. She'd be a great resource for the board, so I,
Motion.
Oh, darn, I was going to. That's okay.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Thank you. I'd like to make the motion that we appoint Lisa Rowe to this board.
is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
You said Rochester, is that Old Colony?
No, I think it's I think it's
The
old.
town of Rochester? Or
think
Rochester,
they're
Old
part of-
Rochester High School?
Yeah, there's a
The school.
vocational school, there's another one, but I don't think it's Old Colony.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right,
so.
I get you.
Anyway, she's head of IT there, and she's just brilliant, so, thank you very much. Okay, we go to, what's going on over there?
Well, I said, isn't he cute? And I said,
Talking about me?
I was talking about me.
Yes, yes,
Beautiful,
that's what he-
of course, Ron. I said, but they're gonna hear it on the microphone and think I'm talking.
Flirting?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm
I'm
not.
glad we brought that out.
I,
Town administrator update.
Yes, just for the record, that was Meg's son that was
Very
leaving,
handsome
and that's what she
little
was
boy.
referencing. Not what this call anywhere.
it'll be in the Carver Reporter, right, Catherine?
Okay, update on site visits subject to open meeting law. As was previously discussed, site visits are not open to the public meeting law. I did meet with one of the town constituents that brought that forward, and there was a what I believe a reasonable suggestion that he has made, and I'm now inquiring with the permitting departments to see if that request is going to make any unnecessary requirement, any undue burden on the different departments, and I'll find out how that plays out. But again, just for clarity, site visits are not subject to the open meeting law, provided there's no deliberation that takes place at those. And they're on private property generally, and the property owner needs to invite other people in. That's at the property owner's discretion. The second item is we have talked about having an open meeting law presentation. And right now, I'm in discussions with Copperman and Page, probably looking at sometime in early May, right after the elections.
That's a good time.
And we'll probably do 2 sessions, one in the late afternoon on a Tuesday and the other in the early evening on a Tuesday, so we can get both staff and elected and appointed boards to attend.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Actually, we don't have, selectmen,
Minutes.
no one has anything to say?
Right now.
Okay, what?
We did that last night, didn't we?
No.
Let's pretend.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna go on to minutes, the minutes of February 9th, 2016.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
First off, we do have one item under that Board of Selectmen portion. And two, I'd just like to apologize for not being here last night, but glad I could be back for tonight.
And I was just gonna say that I'm so happy Alan's doing well. So I
On
guess we did
the
say
Cost
something.
Control Committee, I was going to be making a motion for the board, but I'll make it first so we can discuss it. I move that we hold in abeyance the Cost Control Committee for the new elementary school until such time as it may be needed in the future.
Does that mean we'd have to take, well, is there a
Yeah.
second?
Where is it
Someone wanna-
listed?
Second for the discussion purposes.
Yeah, can we read that? Can we actually do this? Because it's not on here.
It says, I have under Board of Selectmen, Cost Control Committee for new elementary
Oh, I
school.
have the old, March.
I'm looking at March 8th. Oh, okay.
So am I.
I have March 8th at
I
7.
must have an older one.
You must have updated it after.
It's been updated properly online.
Okay, great. Great, that's what matters. Okay.
Oh, actually,
make that
okay, no,
motion
you
then.
know, the one that was on my desk doesn't have 8:45.
Right,
This
me
one has
too.
8:45.
Right.
Which is the real one?
The one you're looking at with the 845.
Okay, good.
Which means we're ahead of schedule.
Okay,
Great. I'll make
So-
the motion. I mean.
all right.
We already
so-
got that.
Motion made, seconded, discussion.
Okay, basically, it's, remember, we did this and there were several concerns that the town administrator had, specifically the outdoor classrooms and how those were gonna be funded, because originally it was rumored that an outside agency would be making a donation for the construction of those, and come to find out that that was some misinformation, because the people that do the grants do not do them for that amount of money. But that has since been rectified, and basically everything is running very smoothly, and in consultation with the town administrator, he really doesn't see any that will really to worry about the cost containment. You know, that the school will be able to be kept in that control. So I just think we might as well do away with it unless we need it at some
You
future
said put it
point.
in abeyance. Now, does that mean to sort of,
We'd have to revote it to come
we would have to
come back.
revote it in order to,
Correct.
You have to unobey it.
Why don't we just, vote to disband it? I mean, Michael wrote us a letter saying he didn't really think we needed it anyway.
Okay, I'd like to amend my motion.
We've cut the cost 28%.
I make, amend my motion for it to be that we'll disband the cost control committee for the new elementary school.
May I make a
Second.
Further discussion?
As chair of the building committee, I know that it is uppermost for that building committee to make sure that we come in on our final cost estimates by the architects and their cost estimators to be in line with the money that our town has voted at our town meeting. So that will be a very, I mean, they're the ones that are supposed to be the first line of figuring those things out. And actually, this will emphasize the importance of the building committee to be aware and follow through on that.
And if I can add to that, the second item, just to give some more detail on that, is when we had our reviews last week of the estimates from 2 independent estimators, the architect on their own was able to keep the project under budget. The first estimate that is done in the project is the most critical because that kind of defines how you're going forward. So the fact that we're under is really shows that we chose the right architect because they have a history of doing that. We did change courses midstream, as everyone knows, because the other architect was recommending the renovations. We've now gone to an architect that's doing the new construction. In addition to that, they also identified areas that should there be some cost overruns that they can scale back without impacting the education program to still keep it within budget. So again, I want to emphasize the fact that the outside classrooms were resolved. That was a big thing because the money wasn't there even though it was programmed. And the second is that this first estimate, the most critical estimate of the whole project, is under budget through the architect's own efforts and their additional value engineering items that can be done. So again, based upon those two things, I'm very comfortable in not moving the committee forward. I do want to comment though, Sarah, the 28% savings has nothing to do with the cost containment committee from that standpoint, because the cost containment was to keep it within the $49 million. We're still going to spend $49 million. The 28% is we're going to be paying a lot less
Right.
to finance that than we would have had we not been doing our financial policies in the past.
No, and I understand that. My original point when this board wanted to establish a cost control committee was that I didn't really see why we needed it anyway, because that was the school building committee's job, so.
It's actually the selectmen's job when it comes down to the cost of the project.
But we're first.
That's right.
Motion made and seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Minutes for February 9th, 2016.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed. A one-day special license for the Carver Sportsman's Club on March 12th.
I move we approve.
Second.
Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. A one-day special license, Carver Sportsman's Club, April 23rd.
Move we accept.
Second.
Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 One-day special license, Carver Sportsman's Club, May 21st.
Move that permit.
Second.
Further discussion?
Can be after.
Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And a one-day special license, Carver Sportsman's Club, June 25th.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Further discussion? Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. And now my favorite part of the meeting, talking about when our next meetings are.
Hold on one second. We got 2 items that were not reasonably anticipated.
Oh,
by
yes,
the
I'm
chairman.
sorry, that was, well, I have to go to the other agenda that I had in order to find those
one
items.
is
So
that?
where is that? That's over here. Yes, a request to use Sampson's Pond. You should
Oh,
have this in your other packet. Request to use Sampson's Pond for a bass tournament on
We do that every year, right?
April 3rd.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Then we have a request, a reappointment of John Banzel to the Old Colony Regional Vocational Technical High School District Committee.
I'd like to make that motion.
This is a joint appointment with the town clerk and moderator. We have emailed them both.
So moved.
I mean, they're supposed to be here?
He's in the EMS department. He's their teaching coordinator, their teaching person, very good.
Is there a motion to approve?
I approve.
Yes.
Second?
I made him.
You make the motion? All right, I second it.
I just would refer to our audience at home. One of the best compliments this committee continues to be paid on a meeting by meeting basis is it's very obvious we don't discuss things ahead of time. There are no backroom deals here. There's no smoke-filled rooms with cigars and bourbon as we make these decisions ahead of time. These are raw decisions made right here in front of you all. So
As much as we might want the bourbon.
I usually need a bourbon at the end of the meeting. Anyway, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. You are objecting to the bourbon, Helen?
Can we move along here, Mr. Chair?
We're ahead of time.
Nice martini.
Yeah, we're significantly ahead of time.
Never mind.
Good.
I'm gonna owe a
Keep
cup of
moving.
coffee for this.
Whoa.
The next board, I believe it's 3:23, right, is the next meeting instead of 3:30 that's listed on here? Of course,
Yes, that's
it
what I
depends which
have.
one I go to. No,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
both say 3:30.
Yeah,
But I think last night
3:23.
we moved it to 3:23.
Correct.
Correct? All right, so,
Because you couldn't do the 22nd, so we moved to the 23rd.
and Helen couldn't do the 29th, so that we compromised.
So it's all about him.
Just take the heat.
23rd.
So you're saying, Mr. Chairman, it was all about you?
And I might add, just as a reminder, hopefully you all got mailed out to you, saw the email that I
Yes.
sent out with the evaluations, which also means we have a meeting on April 12th, which is the night after town meeting, and then again on the 19th.
Yeah, I tried to print it. It came out all kind of.
412 and 419.
All right, so, is there a need for an executive session tonight?
Please say no. I'm tired.
No.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? Further discussion? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it. Oh, Jason, we are out.
We do